My name is Clint McRae. My family and I own and operate Rocker 6 Cattle Company. Ranch is headquartered on the Rosebud Creek, and eastern boundary of the ranch borders on Tongue River. My great-granddad settled like a lot of other ranches in the state of Montana. I think probably the common denominator is because of water. So water, I think, is the reason why he was here and one of the most valuable resources that we have. The other reason that he came here and stayed is because of the grass. This is good grass country. This is not an industrial urban area. This is an extremely rural area. The country here is very good for raising cattle. We're moving cattle right now from the winter pastures where they spent the winter time and calved, and we'll transition into the summer pasture. And we do that because we don't want to season-long graze our grass. We try to rest and rotate and save our grass. There are times where you're out fixing fence and you're up on a high ridge and you think, you know, there's people that would pay to be here right now. So it's a good feeling. Tongue River Railroad would have a lot of impacts on our operation, mainly severance. I've talked to quite a few people who don't really understand the situation. Said, well, there's ranches all over the state of Montana that have a railroad going through it. That's true. But mainly those railroads were built in the 1880s, long before the ranches were settled. So in other words, the ranches were formed around a railroad. This is something different. This is a railroad that would bisect our operations. The Tongue River Railroad will not haul any other commodity than coal. It won't haul grain, it won't haul Subaru cars, it won't haul lumber, and it won't haul Bakken crude. It's going to haul coal. And we have an issue with the federal condemnation of our ground with a single source railroad, especially if they have the power of federal eminent domain to condemn our private land. I think another issue with the Otter Creek coal tracks and the construction of the railroad is they have a very small window in which to open up the mine and to build the railroad. I think in another 10 years, it's not going to be economically viable for that to fly. So I think that they're pushing this as hard as they can, as fast as they can, in order to get this project off the ground. That might not be the right reason to build this project, because I'm not convinced that coal is going to have a long-term future. So this is another thing that we need to take a step back and look at the big picture. Should we be placing those impacts on people like us, the landowners in this area, the Native Americans that are neighbors of mine, for a very short-term speculative venture? I don't think so. I think that we need to look at other methods of energy and not build the railroad and open up the biggest coal mine that's scheduled in the lower 48 states. Well, we've had some conversations with people that do support the railroad. And when we mention, you know, the possibility of having our land condemned, they say, well, you're going to be well paid for that land. My answer to that is, what is the value of land that's not for sale? We're in this for the long haul. We're in this because it's good country. We raise a renewable resource. We can carry that into the next generation. And I think we need to compare that to the short-term issues with Otter Creek coal and with the construction of the railroad and the impacts that it has on this long-term industry, which is agriculture and ranching in southeastern Montana. We have learned to work with this area, work with the weather, work with the conditions, and have a viable ranch year after year and generation after generation. I'm not interested in selling out to a coal company. I'm not interested in making an industrial site out of this ranch so I've got a fat bank account. What I want to do, what I strive to do, is pass this ranch on to the next generation in as good a shape as or better than I received it. And I think that is worth a heck of a lot more than any kind of money that we would get from making an industrial site out of this ranch. This is good ranch country. You know, my great-grandfather, when he came here 130 years ago, there's something to be said for the family still being here. As you can look around, this is not a desert. This is our home. And just because it's a sparsely populated area, you know, we don't believe that we should have things taken from us.